So there goes, first of all, the Strikemaster. To our topic.
So again, one of our anniversary themes. Incredible 65 years of the Jet Provost. What we have on display for you in the air is 2 Jet Provosts and a Strikemaster, which was the counter-insurgency light attack version of the Jet Provost Mark V.
A jet from the basis of the piston-engined Provost. And the first flight of the Jet Provost T1 was on the 26th of June, 1954, from Luton Airport in the hands of Dick Weldon. So 65 years ago, later this month.
And that was a real evolutionary step to actually consider at that stage in the early 50s to have jet-only training. I like side-by-side. No, I like tandem.
Yeah, one former Jet Provost instructor I spoke to a couple of years ago, Paul Wilson, who ends up plain sailing with their Catalina flying boat at Duxford. He said he liked side-by-side, and he very much liked the Jet Provost. Some people say it was rather underpowered, but he said the performance was fine, and he commented that he really liked side-by-side because you can see what the student's doing, whether they're comfortable, whether they're about to be sick, whether it's becoming too much for them. And of course we flip-flopped, haven't we, over the years?
Absolutely. I guess the bottom line is most of the, well, certainly in RAF terms, since the sort of 60s, fast jets have been tandem if they've been 2-seaters. We have had side-by-side, and of course other air forces do, but not so much in the Royal Air Force.
Indeed, it's interesting to reflect, isn't it, that we've now got the Grob Prefect, which is side-by-side, and then the progression will be onto the tandem Texan.
Yeah.
That Mark 1 Jet Provost that's in the static shows that very stalky undercarriage. One of the slight problems with, they were still using quite a lot of grass airfields, particularly as relief landing grounds at the times, and they could give a few problems with the quite flimsy looking undercarriage in terms of breakages. So they went then on the Mark 3, which we're going to be seeing shortly, for a more conventional, much shorter arrangement.
And indeed, it was only a short production run for the Mark 1, just 12 airframes.
As you say, the 3 brought the more powerful Rolls-Royce Viper engine, ejector seats, of course, for the first time, and they've strengthened the wings and gave it the tip tank, which we can see on this. This is the Mark 3 in front of us. And this is a really nice one to have in a flying display. It dates from 1961, and during its time with the Central Flying School, it operated with their aerobatic team, the Red Pelicans, and it's been put back into the colours of that team, which was one of so many RAF teams with the Jet Provost.
Yes, I have a very, well, 5 minutes research through up about 20 different teams, but the Redskins, that then became the Red Pelicans, the Gin 4, the Blades, that sounds familiar,
yes,
the Vipers, and then also, of course, Team Viper, just, what, 10 years or so ago?
Strikemaster, yes.
The Gemini pair, the Swords, the Magistrates, the Macaws, and the Lincolnshire Poachers.
And there was even one with an even more imaginative name than that. Do you know what the first RAF Jet Provost aerobatic team of the Central Flying School was called?
I'm waiting with bated breath.
It was called the Central Flying School Jet Aerobatic Team.
Outstanding.
They flew the Mark 1. Successful in the export market, the Jet Provost, Ceylon, Iraq, Kuwait, Oman, Singapore, South Yemen, Sudan and Venezuela operated them. Some of them even used them for ground attack duties, of which more in a moment.
And they did a fine job, because that engine went on to power other aircraft, including one that is permanently outside the museum, the RAF version of the HS-125, the Dominic.
Absolutely, yeah, one of the most successful of all British jet engines. Rolls-Royce held an anniversary celebration some years back at Coventry Airport, I think it was, for the Viper, and an enormous range of different types was brought together. British Aircraft Corporation absorbed Hunting Aircraft in 1960, and they developed the one we now got in front of us, the Jet Provost T5. And the big difference here, apart from another uprated Viper engine, a pressurised cockpit to enable them to train at higher altitudes. They strengthened the wings as well, and the RAF bought 110 of these. This one was built at the BAC plant at Warton in Lancashire, now one of the main BAE Systems factories. It was delivered to the RAF in 1917. It spent most of its career with No. 6 Flying Training School at RAF Finningley for training navigators, and it was the 1990 Jet Provost display aircraft in this red, white and blue scheme.
So when the Jet Provost finally left RAF service back in 1993, the aircraft that was replaced was a propeller-based system in the jetty flux that turns the shaft and turns the propeller on the front. So propeller, yes, but jet, yes as well.
That replacement was completed in 1993 when 6 FTS at Finningley and No. 1 FTS at Linton-on-Ouse retired their aircraft on 20th of September 1993, but a large number of them were already going into civilian hands, and they've proved very popular as entry-level jet warbirds. But now we've switched to the next in the line, the BAC 167 Strikemaster. As I said, some countries
once again, we have a little bit of history repeating itself again with the Tucano, because Tucano started life as a basic trainer, but of course has also, in various versions now, can carry weapons, Super Tucano and so on. It's still a very important military role, this kind of counterinsurgency, maybe slow flying above a battlefield with not necessarily a particularly heavily armed aircraft, but an aircraft that can do some damage if it has to.
Yes, and of course one of the rationales behind that now is why waste, say, an F-22 or an F-35 in a counterinsurgency fight when you could be operating a light attack aircraft. Now there are various opinions as to that. Of course in this case it was countries that at that time wouldn't have been able to afford a high-end fighter. Saudi Arabia, that's no longer the case. They were the first customer for the Strikemaster, but they did see a lot of combat, particularly with Oman. And there's the JD3 in once again. In fact, 3 Strikemasters of what was then the Sultan of Oman to show the evolution of the line. And here's the Strikey at the back. Yes, in the Dhofar rebellion, communist-backed rebel forces were trying to take over the Dhofar province of Oman from the control of the Sultanate. The Battle of Mirbat in July 1972, the most famous engagement in which Strikemasters flew. Hay House Aviation, which is now going to be based at Harden Airport in Chester. That was flown by Ian Brett, who I think we last had at Cosford when he was the RAF two-toe camouflage of the Omani Strikemasters.
Stop.
And Mark Petrie bringing that into land.